All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to the Never Stop Building podcast with your host, Sam Kaufman. That's me. And today I've got Marc, the fitness ninja Zalmanoff with me. What's up, man?
What's going on, brother?
What's up? Marc, the fitness ninja here. We've got owner of Marc Z Fitness and Nutrition, host of the Make Good Choices podcast, best-selling author, overall just great dude. Right. Overall, great dude. That seems to be the consensus. So, yeah, welcome, man. What's going on with you?
You know, first of all, I love the name of your podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
I think as human beings, more of us need to literally take that approach as a human, not just business. You know, I'm sure most of the people you get on here are business people, and we talk about business, and that's great. But I mean, truly, you know, I believe if you woke up today, you have purpose, and it's a never ending journey until it ends. So there's always something we can be building in our life. I don't care if you're 20 or you're 80 or like, if you're alive, there's a reason you're still here. So I love that. And I think there's probably a very deep meaning that you can dive into at some point down the road with the name of this podcast. So I fucking love it.
You actually just nailed it. To be out 2 seconds. One time somebody said to me, "Hey man, if you ever wrote a book, what would you call it?" And I said, "I'd call it Never Stop Building, because I'm pretty sure that if I just commit the rest of my life to just more, I'm going to be in good shape." And they were like, "Wow." And I was like, "Wow."
You're like, "Wow, that sounded really smart."
Yeah. I was like, man, I sounded good. I should just not write this book so I don't sound like a moron. So I'll just keep it at that. But yeah, no, I'm glad that you caught on. That's awesome.
You know what's great about it is, when you say more, you know, people a lot of times assume we're talking about money. You know, when you're like, I want more in life. Like, I don't know why we're conditioned this way. Maybe it is our society and the images that we see and the things that get promoted, but more usually comes with money and things, right? But a lot of us get to the point of like, okay, I'm making good money. Like, I don't worry about it anymore. Is more money good? For good people, it is. Like, it buys more freedom, right? More things, you know, we'll take them. Like I was saying the other day, I love my truck. Like, I bought a new truck last year. I fucking love that truck. Like, every time I get in it, I'm like, I really love this truck. It's nice. It's got that big giant screen in the middle, you know, like, it sounds good. I love the way it rides. It's huge. Like, and I'm not that big of a dude, so I got all kinds of room in there. But it's a thing, you know, it'll go away at some point. But more for me now is just more impact. It's more influence. It's how can I deliver the message that I deliver to the world in a more powerful manner that more people are actually willing to listen and then do something with that information. Because we have access to all the information that humanity has ever produced. You know, most of us in the palm of our hand. The difference between you and I and the masses that you and I are willing to take action on this stuff. The people that bitch and moan and complain that they don't have whatever it is that they want, they're not taking action on it. And I know it's not that simplistic. You know, we've all had to get to this point in our life. Like, I'm 42 years old, and it took me, I don't know, probably till my early 30s before I started reading. Like, I hated reading when I was in high school. You know, they force you to read books and whatever. And I was just so disinterested that I started telling myself this story that I'm not a reader. And that wasn't true. What it was I'm not a reader of things that other people want me to read that I'm not interested in.
Right.
So once I started figuring that out, went, oh, wait a minute. Like, I picked up a book. I'm like, well, that's really interesting. And then I found another book. I'm like, well, that's really interesting too. Oh shit, I actually enjoy reading. I just didn't like reading that shit that they made me read. You know, no offense, but like the diary of Anne Frank, God bless. You know, like, why did we have to?
Yeah, she doesn't know you're saying that. You're good.
Yeah. But so, you know, once I found that love of gaining knowledge, because that's what it is for me. Like, you know, I read nonfiction stuff. So it's like, I'm looking for knowledge. I'm looking for an edge. Oh my God, it changed everything for me.
Yes.
So now, I utilize that type of information, things on podcasts, and whatever I can to figure out, okay, how can I do more in life? How can I keep building who I am as a human? Because if I continue to do that, then all the things that I want in life will come to fruition. And it's hard to see it when you're in the shit. You know, I was just talking to one of my business partners just like an hour ago, and we were talking about like in the fitness world. So, you know, my background's as a fitness coach, of basically having Groundhog Year for several years in a row, where like I wasn't growing, nothing was changing. I was still making the same amount of money that wasn't great. And like I was always just a few clients away from almost breaking through, but then a few clients away from almost needing to go get a job. Like that's terrible. But you know, that pouring myself into just self-growth and self-development, like it changed the game for me.
Why did you do that though? So why did something happen? Was it just a mental thing? Was it just a screw it? I've tried everything else. I'll pick this book up or I'll attend this event, or like what happened in your brain that switched, or I don't want to say switched, because I think people get this image of a light switch and you just change, and that's not actually true.
Yeah.
It's a practice, but what created that?
So when I was growing up, I grew up with my dad, and somehow he always instilled a pretty good level of confidence in me. Like he was never very critical of me. I was like a straight A student. I graduated with the things and whatever. I got like a special tassel, on my cap.
So cute.
And even in college, I was there. Like I had a 3.5 in college. So, I graduated like cum laude and whatever. And he's always just been very supportive of me. And I believe that support instilled a confidence in me that I just always carried with me. So even when I was struggling, even the years that I was like, fuck, how am I going to pay rent? Like, I tell this just to give people perspective. So I have two boys, they're 20 and 14. And I remember one weekend they're with me, and I think my little one was maybe 2 or 3, which means the other one was like 8 or 9. Right. And I value my time with them, and I would always take them out once a weekend. We'd go have fast food and, watch a movie or something. And I remember I literally had like $20 that I could spend. And I'm like, all right, so if we go to Chick-fil-A, I can get, they can each get their kid meal, and I'll just get a sandwich and mooch off their fries, and we can go have a good time. So, I would just find a way to make those things happen, because it wasn't about me, it was about them. But it was that dissatisfaction that I had, but I still had the confidence. I've always had the confidence. I'm like, I know there's a fucking way to do this. I know there's a way to be successful. And like most fitness coaches are not very successful. Like, just being honest, they don't make a lot of money. They stay in it way too long. They stay in it because they love helping people, but they don't figure out the business side of things. But there was something just internally in me and said, no, there's a way to fucking do this. And every time, like, anything in my head was like, maybe you should go sell real estate or, or roofs now, whatever.
It's roofs and solar, bro.
Yeah, totally roofs and solar. That's exactly where I would go if I had to do it over again. But same. But every time that happened, something in my business or a person I was coaching or whatever would like draw me back into it. So I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be here for some reason, right? And so that confidence that I just have always carried with me wouldn't let me quit. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And so I'm a firm believer that when we have a problem and we acknowledge that problem, that our subconscious works until we figure it out. So, you ever have something on your mind where you're like, man, I'm trying to solve this thing within my business, and you're racking your brain. You're like, man, I just can't figure it out. And then 3 weeks later, you wake up in the middle of the night, like, oh, fuck, I got it. And you get up and write a note in your phone for when you wake up later in the morning, just so you didn't just figure it out. The last 3 weeks, your subconscious was churning, going, hey, we got to figure this problem out, because it's an unclosed loop, and humans love closed loops. Like, if you ever, here's another trick in marketing. If you have images and you leave part of the image off, but if somebody clicks it and they can see the whole thing, they'll click it every time. That's why we hit read more on Facebook when somebody's post is long, because we have to close the loop in our head, right?
We're not comfortable with there being more and us not seeing it, closing it. Interesting.
So again, it goes back to like, I knew there was a way. I knew there was a way to solve this problem, and my mind wouldn't let me stop until I did. And I'm not saying I've solved it all by any means, but
Sure.
I finally found a path that started to lead me to more fruitful results. And then I just fucking doubled down and doubled down and doubled down and invested and doubled down. And, and all the things we talk about all the time now of surrounding yourself with the right people and reading the right books and all those things, now they're really like exponentially growing things for me. But it took that journey for me to get here. And it really, you go back and you ask yourself, like, would I change anything? Well, yeah, I wouldn't want to fucking struggle that long. But at the same time, I also understand, like, I had to go through that to get where I am now. And it makes me extremely grateful for what I have. It makes me extremely humble for the people that support me. And it gives me great perspective that, I did the work, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I didn't give up, because most people do. And there were plenty of times I wanted to, and I just didn't, and maybe it was stubbornness or stupidity, or it doesn't even matter what it is. Like, I just didn't give up. And now I get to be here I get to be here with a life that far closer resembles the ultimate lifestyle that I want to have. And I think that should be everyone's goal. And it has nothing to do with money or things or fame or fortune or any of that stuff. It truly goes to, like, what do you want your day to look like when you wake up in the morning every day?
Yep.
And how close can you get? How much closer can you get every day? One little step, that 1% or that 0.5% or the half a percent, doesn't matter what it is. How can I get a little bit closer to living my ideal existence, at least what I have in my head right now? And that's tough. It's tough.
Why do you think so many people quit on that?
Because it's fucking hard.
It's fucking hard.
But the problem is, and you've heard this, but maybe some of your listeners haven't, like, we get to choose our hard. And this is where people need perspective, because it's hard to be broke. Like, most of us understand that, because most of us didn't grow up with wealth, and we know what it was like to eat ramen and bologna and try to budget $20 for a weekend with your kids, right? But it's also hard to have a lot of money. And I'm not saying I have a lot of money by any means, but there's other problems that come along with it. There's also an expectation that comes along with it. You start putting that expectation on yourself of like, oh shit, I made 10 grand in a month. Now I always have to make 10 grand in a month. Well, what if I don't make 10 grand in a month? What if I go back to making 6 grand in a month? And you do that to yourself at every level, 10, 20, 50, whatever, however much money you make, you do that to yourself.
That's right. Until you realize that there's a knowledge level that you can come up with 10 grand as easy as you used to come up with $10.
Yeah.
Something changes, crazy, right? That is crazy. But I did want to, I did, just for anybody listening, I've seen people's faces when people say being broke is hard and having money is hard. And I see people really just write that off. Like, you're an asshole. That's not true. My question to you is, if you just heard that and you have written it off, have you ever had a lot of money? And if you haven't, don't write that off so quick.
Yeah.
Give that some reflection. It is hard to have a lot of money. It is hard to be broke. And I think the being broke thing, I think we're taught that not only is, even if you're like, you grew up like normal or like middle class, upper middle class, whatever, like, we're taught that like broke is morally bad. So there's like a whole new layer of fear in that, right? Like, you're broke, you're a bad person, you're a failure, you're an idiot. You're like, there's a
lazy, you didn't try hard enough.
Yeah. Like, some of the brokest I've ever been was some of the most disciplined I've ever been. I just put my money in better places than my pocket. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
So true.
Sorry, that hit my soul as you were talking. I was like, damn, we got to touch on that for people who are like, he's an asshole. What does he know? Like, no, he knows.
And you know what? But I've said it too. Like, I'll gladly take the problems I have with money than the problems I had without money.
Every time.
There was research done. I don't know. It's not that old, that stated in America at $75,000 annual income, there is a marked level of increased happiness. So if you're currently making 40,000 a year, and next year you start making 75,000 a year, and that continues, you will legitimately be happier. But past that, There's no difference, because it's different levels, different devils. Like, you just deal with different things. Once you understand, and again, it's, the money mindset stuff is fascinating to me. But like, once you understand that you can just go buy the things, they don't have so much meaning anymore. I'll give you an example. So my bougie, beautiful wife last year got in her head that she wanted to go find like a high-end wallet, because she loses her fucking ID card and debit card all the time. She pulls it out of one thing, sticks it somewhere else, can't find it. She's like, I'd like to go get a nice wallet, Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent, like one of the brands, right? Sure. And I'm like, I don't care, whatever. She makes, it ain't my money. Yeah, it's our money, but sure, she does extremely well for herself. She's a high-end hairdresser. She don't need me. Not for that anyway.
That means she really likes you.
I know.
That's good.
It must be this charming smile I have. So we go looking, and she finds this like little Gucci. It's really just a card case. It's not even a wallet. It's just, for her cards to go in. And then she sees this purse, and I don't get it, because I'm a dude, but she kind of falls in love with this purse, and it's like, I don't know, it ain't cheap. And she's looking at me. I'm like, you can get it. Like, don't ask me. Like, I don't give a fuck. But here's what I did, because she could have bought it right then and there. No big deal. Right.
Sure.
I said, why don't you attach it to a goal? And she looked at me with this look like, fuck. Because she knew exactly what I was talking about too. Because I already had a goal for her in mind that she had already verbalized out loud for her business. And she's like, so she goes, all right. Like, she's got a program she's wanting to launch. She does business coaching for hairstylists too. And nice. She's like, all right, so when I launch this program, I'll come back and buy the purse. Ooh. So it wasn't about the money. It was about attaching it to something else that actually meant something.
What does that do for people?
So what it does for us in those moments, it humbles us a little bit, right? But it gives us incentive as well. Because again, when you get to that point where you're like, not everything, but like, I can go buy the thing I want to buy. Like, if I want a new pair of shoes, I can go buy a pair of shoes. I found a pair of Jordans this morning online. I'm like, oh, I need those. And I could have hit buy right then and there, right? And I was like, wait a minute. So I text our buddy Mike. I texted Claudio, and I said, hey, I'm going to get these shoes when I do this. And he said, okay. I said, I'm just letting you know for accountability purposes. He goes, all right, cool. So for me, like, do I need the extra incentive? Not really. But, I believe, again, as humans, we always need to be challenged. Like, if we want to keep building, back to the whole, the message here, we have to somehow challenge ourselves in some way, shape, or form. And so as we grow in life, those challenges have to change. They have to be fluid. And we have to recognize like what actually lights us up inside that gets us up and willing to do it. Because at every level, there's a drop off. Stuman's talked about this before, where you get 6-figure earners, and there's a certain percentage of people they're like, totally cool here. I'm totally cool making 100, 150 a year, which is, again, nothing wrong with that at all, right? Like, if that makes you happy, fucking have at it by all means. And then at $250,000, there's a drop off. And then at $500,000, there's a drop off. And at $1 million, there's a drop off, because every one of those levels to get to the next one requires more work. And it may not necessarily be quote unquote hard work, but it's calculated. It's educating yourself on more things. It's investing wisely. It's not blowing your money. So again, the responsibility that comes with more wealth, like, you have to deal with that. Otherwise, you'll be way back where you started from before you know it.
Right. That's interesting to me too. Attaching it to a goal, like, it's almost like creating a way to earn it beyond saying, I earned the money, therefore I deserve it. Because that gets old. That doesn't work long. That's really short-lived. And then on the flip side too, the incentive to start your course, or like to hit your goal, because if you have the money, really, like, launching your course to help people, like, well, I already have enough money, and do I really want to do that extra work? I mean, yeah, I want to help, but like a little bit of all right, when I do that, I'm going to do this. When I do this, I've earned this. It does, because at some point, again, and people are going to hear this and be like, yeah, you're full of shit, or it's easy for you to say, or money really loses incentivization quickly once you have some. Like I'll tell you, like I love that drop off thing. Like I have everything I've ever needed right now. I have more than I've ever had my entire life. It's great. It's incredible. I am not providing the exact life for my kids that I dream of. I am not providing the exact life for my wife that I dream of. Now, to them, I don't think they even know there really is more to like. My wife does. She's an adult. She's very smart. My kids have no idea there's more. My kids probably think that we're fucking Bill Gates over here. Like they have no idea. Like they've never wanted for anything. You know what I mean? Like, but it's interesting, like the purpose, because like if my coming in and working hard and gaining more, if the goal is to make more money, if I looked around, like, why? If the goal is to make more money, to make a bigger impact on the people I love, my mission, my purpose, that's a whole different level of willingness to do the hard stuff. And to your point, make good choices. Never stop.
And that's, and that's, it has to be in line with your mission and what you're passionate about in life. And so, when I texted Mike this morning and said, hey, I'm going to buy these shoes when I hit this goal, like I know in my head what that goal actually means and how many people that means my company is serving, how many more people I'm helping, how many more people I'm impacting, because that's what it's really about. So, I dangle a little carrot in front of myself to reward myself, at that point. But I also know that I'll push just a little bit extra, knowing that, hey, when I hit that mark, that's another, 30, 40, 50 people that I get to help in this world. And, my mission, this, but, my mission in life is to leave people better. It's as simple as that. And that drives every decision that I make now. So how can I leave people better? And then how can I leave more people better? Because, and again, this, but your listeners probably don't. Like I talk about death all the time. The clock, I'm the happiest death guy you'll ever meet, right? The clock's ticking. We never know when it's over. Lord willing, I got another 70, 80 years, but who knows, right? So while I'm here, I want to make the most of it. I want to squeeze every ounce of this thing every day that I can. And some days I succeed and some days I don't. That's just the nature of the beast. But that's how I operate now. What's really funny is the more that I do that, the more things come my way, whether it's money, opportunity, impact, stages, vacations. Like the more I lean into that singular mission, the more my life resembles the life that I want to live.
That's really interesting. No real explainable reason for that, huh?
I mean, you could break it down all day.
You could try. It's hard to explain to people why and how leaning into purpose changes everything. I tell like, you just have to do it. You got to have some faith and give it a shot. And let me ask you this, if you're listening and could it get worse than it is now? Because if not, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Yeah, the death thing that freaks me out. You can keep that. I'm going to keep pretending that doesn't exist for a few more years until I have a breakdown, and then I'll come back to you.
It definitely, a lot of that stuff sounds super woo woo, and people can either believe it or not. And I know some people have they like have this internal conflict with their religion. I'm a Christian, so they get this conflict with like, but I'm following Jesus and Jesus says this, but this feels like I'm following what the world is telling me, which is in opposition to Jesus. But again, like if your mission is pure and where your heart is, and the reasoning behind the things that you're doing, and they align with your Christianity or your Buddhism or whatever it is, then you just have to be okay with that. The world's going to judge you. Like, don't ever get that twisted. It doesn't matter what you do, rich, poor, fat, skinny, tall, short, you're going to be judged regardless. So you just have to know that's going to happen.
Yeah. And if you're living mission and purpose, and I'll use Jesus as an example, like Christians are not the conform, that's me.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I'm getting the stupid microphone change notice, but I think it's wrong. All right, cool. Yeah, no, like Jesus was a rebel. judged, doubted, hated
Yeah.
passionately, and changed the course of history and religion. And I think it's interesting. You're right. You will be judged no matter what. You will never be able to go with the grain of society and the general masses if you are living in your purpose and mission, but you will also never be happier and more successful. Right?
Yeah. And you think about, I think people forget about all of Jesus. They just think about, the savior and forgiveness, and they forget that he hung out with prostitutes and flipped tables.
That's right.
Like sometimes you got flips and tables. That's the Jesus I love right there.
That
just walking in and going, no, bam.
That's what bought me in, was understanding that. But that's kind of, and it has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with Christianity, but that's how we never stop building. We kind of need to walk into our life and flip some tables. It's time, right? We need to walk in, flip some tables, and kick out the tax collectors that are the demons in our soul, the bad, the negative voices, the doubt and the fear. Flip some tables and get them the fuck out of there, and start like living our lives and building. And yeah.
And it's interesting to me when this time that we're living in, I believe it's so diametrically opposed. So to me, it's the easiest time that has ever been to make money. It's by far the most comfortable time in humanity ever. And I know that there's people starving in the world. Totally understand that. We live in the United States where I could probably have somebody literally feeding me food in my mouth within 20 minutes from an app, right?
Yeah, you could.
I can summon strangers from the interwebs to deliver food to my house. And like I said, for an extra $20, somebody will probably cut my food up for me and feed me, right? So this shit's really easy. At the same time, we are so inundated with bullshit all day long if you're not careful. I can't give you an exact year, but the amount of information that we receive in a day now from the internet, from TV, from driving down the street and seeing signs and billboards is more per day than humans used to receive in a lifetime.
Yep.
Not that long ago, maybe a couple hundred years ago, like 200-300 years ago.
Maybe
so in the
not
grand
even.
scheme of time, that's not that long ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunity to be sidetracked from your mission, to have uncertainty, to be unclear, to be anxious, to be depressed, like all those things has never been greater either. And so back to like, how do we navigate this? The books you read, the people you associate with, the people you listen to, what what you're filling your mind with, like truly, truly matters. And so whatever it is that you are building in your own life, you got to get crystal clear on what that is. And that's never an easy process. It also changes for people too. I'll use my kids as an example. 20 and 14, whole different priority than when they were 3 and 9. Whole different level of responsibility or lack thereof. Way more hands off now than ever, right? Because they're like functioning humans and not, people that rely on me for literally everything and anything. So your priorities shift. And I always caution people, like, don't attach your purpose to things and people, because people leave and move and things come and go. And, people that put their purpose in their kids, again, I have nothing wrong with that, but like your kids grow up and they move out. And again, I got nothing wrong with people going, I do this for my family. Some of your driving force may be for that because like you said it, like you want to provide a good life for them. You want them to have things you didn't have. You want them to be able to experience things you didn't experience. But at the same time, if you attach everything that you do to them, what happens when they're not who they are anymore?
100%.
What happens when your kids leave? What happens if, God forbid, something actually happened to your spouse, like tragic? Yep. Then what? If you said your purpose was all your kids and your spouse, and something happens to your spouse and they pass away and your kids moved out because they're older, what do you do now? Right. Now you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs going, what the fuck am I doing in my life?
I think it's hard for some people not to attach purpose to a responsibility, a long-term responsibility, right? Well, I have to do this for a long time, so this is my sole purpose. Like, nah, man. No, and I'll tell my wife and kids are not my purpose, but they are a passion, right?
Oh,
You know what I
100%.
mean?
Yeah.
But I love
You know,
that. I
so,
love that point. I hear that a lot. Like I used to actually say it a lot. I
oh,
do
I'm
this
sure
for
I
my
did.
kids. I do it for my kids. I do it for my kids. But then to be honest too, nothing bad happened, but I looked up and said like, well, their lives are great. Why am I actually doing this? I don't actually have to do this for them. This is stupid. They're
Yeah.
fine. They're fine. We're not broke anymore. We're not sleeping on the floor anymore. So like, am I doing it? And it's the excuse. And I hate to, I'm not calling anybody out, but like I used to say it as my excuse to have an imbalanced life. I'm doing it for my kids. It's okay. I'm not home tonight. Doing it for my kids. It's cool. I'm working Saturday again. I'm doing it for my kids. It's okay that I'm distant emotionally, physically. That no, dude. No, total backward, total opposite. Right?
You were making your reason into an excuse.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
calling it a purpose.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And what's great is, so like my mission to leave people better. Well, that includes my wife and my kids. They're under that umbrella. Like every day I want my wife to feel like I contributed to her life in a meaningful manner. And again, some days I succeed, some days I don't. But that's in the forefront of my mind all the time. So my mission gets to serve those around me by proxy, just because that's what I'm doing in the world. So
yeah.
whoever that is, whether it's my wife or the cashier at the grocery store, it doesn't matter. Like that's still the goal regardless.
I love that. I love that. If more people should have that goal, leave people better. I do want to touch back on like we're talking about the information overload. And one of the things, and I know that you have experience with this because I have experience with it now being in part of these circles that you're in, but almost like Chris Whitehead and I touched on this when we spoke, but like controlling the content that you're consuming, being really mindful and extremely intentional. I think you see it a lot, like don't absorb negative stuff. I don't think people actually understand what is negative. I don't think people like one of the things I started doing, and I just kind of wanted your like feedback here, but one of the things I started doing a while ago was anything, not that made me uncomfortable, but any content that created anxiety, left, gone, unfollowed, blocked, over, done. So I like things that appear as informational or can actually be very negative. The news, for example, there are things that appear educational and informational that can actually cause a lot of negativity, self-doubt, self-harm, isolation. Are you on track with that with me? Control the content, if we're going to absorb information faster than we ever have, shouldn't it be good information at least?
Yes. And that's really hard to do. Because that requires you defining what's good and bad. And on the surface, so I study a lot of stoicism, and nothing is good or bad. Everything
does not surprise me at all.
Nothing is good or bad. Only we put those labels on those things, so we have to determine what's actually adding value to our lives. I'm not a huge fan of shutting it all off, and I'll tell you why. So I don't we hardly ever turn the TV on. I watch football, but outside of football season, like I almost never turn my TV on unless my wife is like, hey, you want to watch something just to kind of decompress? And that doesn't even happen very often either. So I don't see a lot of that. Obviously my Facebook news feed is basically filled with positivity because I just hide people that bitch and moan because I don't have time for that either. But
Same.
I do keep a little bit of the pulse of just what's going on in the world. And again, for me, it's been a lot of mental work of, again, what I just said before, like nothing's good or bad. It is what it is. So I've just trained my mind to be able to accept information, and then I get to choose what I do with that. We can't be passionate about everything. Are the oceans being polluted? Yeah. Do I give a shit? No, not really. You know why I don't give a shit? Because I'm not going to do anything about it.
Yep.
I'm not. And I also know that there's people out there that are super passionate about it that will do something about it. I'll let them have it. I'm passionate about coaching people. I'm passionate about health and fitness. I'm passionate about helping people grow their business. That's where my efforts go.
Yep.
So I will spend my time and energy on that because that is part of what I do in this world. So I can't concern myself with polluted oceans and baby seals and global warming or climate change or fucking 8 genders or I just can't, you know?
So it's almost really more about not getting distracted from your purpose and your goals. And that goes back to 20 minutes ago. People have a really hard time figuring out what their purpose actually is. And go ahead.
Yes, to the information side of things, like I said this recently, you don't have to have an opinion on everything. Like you can have zero opinion.
I have an opinion on that.
I know. Like you can be Switzerland about whatever the fuck you want to be Switzerland about. Somewhere along the line, we had this notion that we got to know everything about all the things. One of the most powerful statements any of us can ever say is, I don't know. Like you ask me a question about something that I don't know, I'm going to say, I don't know. I don't know, because I need my brain space for the things that I need to know, not whatever the hell that is. Like we've been going down this rabbit hole of NFTs and crypto, and it's still like, it fucking hurts my head, man.
We have that call tonight, actually.
Oh my God. Oh God. I don't even know if I'm going to listen to it. It hurts my head.
No, you're covered.
So somebody asked me about it, I'm like, I don't know. And that's okay. Like you can not know something. It's totally fine. Yeah. But I think a lot of people get in that realm of like, I got to know everything. I got to know what's going on in the Ukraine and in Canada and the truckers and Biden and Mexico and the cartels and South America. Like, no, you don't have the capacity, but too many people do that. And that's why they get deterred from their mission and their purpose in this world, because they're filling their brain with all this bullshit that they're never going to do anything about other than bitch and moan on social media. Meanwhile, if they just took 10% of that energy and poured it into something that they love, like magic would happen.
Yeah, life would change.
It'd change. Yeah. Totally.
That was really good. We're going to end it right there. That was a phenomenal ending. Thank you for coming on. Now I'm all like, so much to think about when I talk to you, Mark. so much. All right, so we'll do like a 60-second recap. So let's sum that all up. If you could sum up all of that in a 60 to 90 second takeaway. I know that's a big ask. I know, because like, what did we just talk about? What would you make that?
There's 2 things in life you have control over. We try to control everything, including people. There's only 2 things you have control over, and that's your thoughts and your actions. You have zero control over anything else. You don't control the weather. You only control your kids to a certain age. You damn sure don't control your wife. Like, there's only 2 things, your thoughts and your actions. And the more that you understand that concept and use that information accordingly, the better your life is. Because whatever I receive, I get to choose what I do with that. I can have an opinion on it. I cannot have an opinion on it. I can respond. I cannot respond. I can take action. If it's valuable information that's given to me that I can go make an impact in the world, I can take action on that. If it's invaluable, I can cast it aside and I don't have to do anything with it. I don't have to get mad. I don't have to be offended. I can make good choices. and literally just, I get to choose that. And that has transformed my life. And I know it will continue until the end of my days. And that stays in the forefront of my mind. Sometimes people say, like mostly my wife, she'll say something to me sometimes, maybe I get a little irritated, but in that moment I go, wait a minute, does this really matter? Is this about me or her? I get to choose how I respond to this. I don't have to react. I get to respond. And I truly believe if more people adopted that mindset and understood those are your 2 things that you get, your thoughts and your actions, and use them wisely, everyone would live a better life, period.
That's incredible. That was a phenomenal piece together too. So well done. It's like you had it ready to go. That was incredible. So look, before we end it, where can people find you, man? If they want to hit you up, you got online coaching, you got a podcast. Where can people find you at?
The easiest thing is thefitnessninja.phonesites.com. That literally has every link to everything that I do. And it's a long list.
He ain't lying. It's a long list of things. All right. So thefitnessninja.phonesites.com.
That's it. Or Facebook, cool. Marc Zalmanoff. That's easy enough. I'm always there.
Don't give multiple options. Now you're confusing people. We got to stick with, you know how we are. No, that's cool. Dude, thank you so much for coming on today. Again, check out the Fitness Ninja. Do us a favor, review, subscribe, rate, and check out the Make Good Choices podcast because that's a hit too. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.